All right. Okay. All right. Assalamu alaikum to everyone, to brothers and sisters. Welcome back again to our weekly Sunday meeting, Sunday Halaqah. And we're going to continue again, inshallah, hopefully. We're going to complete today's, this week, 19th flash on frugality. All right, so let's just so if you would like maybe just I mean I can just quickly go over what we have discussed so far. As you know, so this 19th flash is talking about frugality, and it's about like, and it's coming from Quran. So in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, I believe so. Surah 731. So it's talking about like the sounds of Adam. So kulu washrabu wa la tusrifu innahu la yuhibbul musrifin. So eat and drink, but waste not by excess. So this is the verse that we're talking about that Ustad Zaman is explaining and going into detail and stressing the importance of offering thanks, and starts with the first point, so explaining about the thanks and in return to all the bounties that we have and Allah Almighty has bestowed upon us. And so just offering an understanding, and of course, I mean, relating over and over again, so how rich that we are. So we given like all these like bounties and beautiful things that Allah, all compassionate creator and Allah Almighty has given us. And so the only thing that we can offer in return is the most important one of the most important tasks, as again, like Vidya Said explains in another other treatise, says that again, as one of them was the offering thanks, and goes into a second point, so importance again. So just now how just basically it starts with offering thanks and understanding our just relationship, and of course I'm just with of course in this earthly life and in this worldly in this world, and like how great it is, of course, I mean, just to make some analogies and observing around, and especially observing our daily actions, daily activities. And one of them is, of course, I mean, eating and drinking, as the verse points out. So, and then just again, so Vedishaman just makes a great looking example, starting from just from stomach and mouth, and making that link and connection. Goes into third point, gives a great analogy and to understand, of course, again, how we can just maybe look just everything that just Allah Almighty given us, and Gauss Lazam's says anecdote and an analogy, and makes that connection. Moving on to the fourth point, and of course, I mean, again, just seeing the richness, like we just mentioned, so like how rich we are because we can just now just we have our freedom, and of course, I mean, just Allah Almighty has given us just all these great bounties, and just and of course I mean just seeing that and understanding it, and of course I mean acting upon it, and of course I mean just living it, practicing it, makes us again like has been a rich person. And last week I think like no, we finished the fifth point and the sixth point, where again like no, we talked about that again like it's now this time like the analogy comes from Bedizaman's like own life, and having like I mean whatever that we have, of course I mean just acting upon moderately, right? So just and of course that living like moderately, like how important that is. And again like it's been in the sixth point, so like moderately, just again like another analogy comes from Omar ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Omar's like life, how he's acting in his trade, and how he's practicing this in his daily life. And when he, of course, I mean, just sees maybe just people in need around him, so like how he is treating them and how he is acting in his trade. So while he's like maybe just acting to someone else could easily interpret as stinginess, but now he says like no, it is not. But like when I'm acting like this man in the trade, that is totally different. When I am, of course, I'm treating someone in need, so he's being like much more, of course, generous. So these are the points that we discussed, inshallah, and in the past week. And seventh point is today's last point. So inshallah, we're going to complete with by reading it. And today, inshallah, brothers Mustafa and Baikar again will be helping me as panelists. All right, without further ado, let me just begin. Inshallah, seventh point, and I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna read book once, of course, and then we're gonna come back and discuss, hopefully. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, rabbil alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Seventh point, excess and wastefulness lead to greed, and greed has three consequences. Excess and wastefulness lead to greed, and greed has three consequences. The first is dissatisfaction. And as for dissatisfaction, it destroys endeavor and enthusiasm for work and causes the dissatisfied person to complain instead of giving thanks and makes him lazy. Such a person abandons possessions, which, though few in number, are licit, and seeks possessions which are illicit and trouble-free. He sacrifices his self-respect on the way and even his honor. Just going to repeat like the last one. Such a person abandons possessions, which, though few in number, are illicit, and seeks possessions which are illicit and trouble-free. He sacrifices his self-respect on the way and even his honor. The second consequence of greed is disappointment and loss. The greedy person drives away what he wishes for, is found disagreeable, and is deprived of assistance and help. He even confirms the saying, the greedy person is unsuccessful and suffers loss. Greed and contentment have their effects in the world of living beings in accordance with an extensive law. For instance, the natural contentment of trees needy for sustenance makes their sustenance hasten to them. This shows the huge benefits of contentment, while animals running after their sustenance greedily and difficulty and deficiency demonstrates the great loss of greed. Also, the contentment apparent through their tongues of disposition of the helpless young and a pleasant food like milk flowing out to them from an unexpected place, while wild animals greedily attack their deficient and dirty sustenance, prove our claim in clear fashion. Also, the contented attitude of fat fish being the means of their perfect sustenance, and intelligent animals like foxes and monkeys remaining puny and weak because because they cannot find sufficient sustenance, although they proceed with greed, again show the degree to which greed is the cause of hardship and contentment the cause of ease. Also, Jewish people finding through greed, usury, and trickery their degrading, miserable, illicit sustenance only at subsistence level, and the contented attitude of nomads, and their living with dignity and finding sufficient sustenance proves decisively what we say once more. Also, many scholars and literary figures being reduced to poverty because of the greed arising from their intelligence, and many stupid and incapable people becoming rich due to their innate contentedness, proves decisively that licit sustenance comes because of impotence and want, not by virtue of ability and will. Indeed, licit sustenance is in inverse proportion and in inverse proportion to ability and will and indeed licit in sustenance is in inverse proportion to ability and will. For the more children increase in ability and will, the more their sustenance decreases, the further it is from them and the more difficult to digest. According to the hadith, contentment is an unfailing treasure. Contentment is a treasury of good living and ease of life, while greed is a mine of loss and abasement. The third consequence, greed destroys sincerity and damages actions in regard to the hereafter. For if a God-fearing person suffers from greed, he will desire the regard of others, and someone who considers the attention of others cannot have complete sincerity. This consequence is extremely important for worth noticing. In short, excess and wastefulness lead to lack of contentment, and lack of contentment destroys enthusiasm for work. It causes laziness, opens the door to complaining about life, and makes the dissatisfied person grumble continuously. Also, it destroys sincerity and opens the door to hypocrisy, and it destroys self-respect and points the way to begging. Oh, and I think I missed one dipnote, I guess. So 14, so let me just read it. I just noticed. It was asked for Ozogmer, the vizier of Persian Shah Nusirwan, the just and scholar famous for his intelligence. Why are the learned to be seen at the doors of rulers and rulers not to be seen at the doors of the learned? Whereas learning is superior to the rulership, he replied, because of the knowledge of the learned and the ignorance of the rulers. That is to say, due to their ignorance, rulers do not know the value of learning, so that they approach the doors of the learned to seek it. But because of their knowledge, the learned know the value of their goods and possessions and seek them at the ruler's doors, explaining thus wittily the greed resulting from cleverness and of the learned, which causes of them to be impecunious and in want. Bozogmar replied in refined manner. Signed Husrev says. And then another one, so event corroborating this in France, a beggar's license was given to literary figures because they were so proficient at begging, signed by Sulaiman Rushdie. And the last one is that whenever you meet a wasteful, immoderate person, you hear complaints. No matter how rich he is, his tongue still complains. But when you meet even the poorest but contented person, you hear thanks. As for frugality and economy, these result in contentment. According to the Hadith, the contented person is respected and the greedy person despised. There is no deep note here. Contentment gives rise to self-esteem. It also encourages effort and work. It increases enthusiasm and induces striving. For example, a person worked for one day because he was content with the petty wage he received in the evening. He worked again the second day. But because the wasteful and immoderate person was not content, he did not work the following day, or if he did so without enthusiasm. Also, the contentment arising from frugality opens the door of thanks and closes the door of complaint. Throughout his life, the contented person is thankful, and in so far as he is independent of others due to his contentment, he does not seek their regard. The door of sincerity is opened and the door of hypocrisy closed. I observed the fearsome harm of wastefulness and excess on a broad scale. It was as follows. 9 years ago, I visited a fortunate town. It was winter, and I could not see its sources of wealth. Several times the town's mufti, may God have mercy on him, said to me, "Our people are poor." His words touched me. The next 5 or 6 years, I felt continual pity for the people of the town. 8 years later, I again visited it in the summer. I looked at the gardens and recalled the words of the late Mufti. "Glory be to God," I exclaimed. "These gardens' crops are far greater than the needs of the town. Its people should be very rich." I was amazed. then remembering a truth that has never deceived me and is my guide in understanding other truths, I understood that the abundance and plenty had disappeared due to wastefulness and excess, so that although the town possessed such sources of wealth, the late Muftis used to say, our people are poor. Indeed, just as giving zakat and being frugal and economical is proven by experience to be the cause of increase and plenty in goods and possessions. So too, innumerable events show that wastefulness and the failure to give zakat cause increase and plenty to be taken away. The Plato of Islamic sages, the Sheikh of physicians and master of philosopher, the famous genius Abu Ali ibn Sina, explained the verse, eat and drink, but waste not in excess 731, just from the point of view of medicine, as follows. I concentrate the science of medicine in two lines. The best word is the shortest. When you eat, eat little and do not eat again for 4 or 5 hours. Health lies in digestion. That is to say, eat so much as you can digest easily. The heaviest and most tiring thing for your stomach and yourself is to eat many things on the on in eat many things one on top of the other. And this is from 21. That is to say, the most harmful thing for the body is to eat without having had a break for 4 to 5 hours or to fill the stomach with a variety of foods, one on top of the other, just for the pleasure of it. An extraordinary and instructive coincidence. An extraordinary and instructive coincidence. In all the copies of the treatise on frugality, written by 5 or 6 scribes, 3 of whom were inexperienced, who were in different places, far from one another, were writing it out from different copies, whose handwriting was all different, and who did not take the elifs into consideration at all. The elifs which coincided numbered 51 or with a prayer 53. These numbers coinciding with the date of the treatise on frugality was written and copied, which was 1351 according to the Rumi calendar and 1353 according to the Hijri calendar. Undoubtedly cannot be chance. It is an indication that the blessing of plenty resulting from frugality has risen to the degree of wondrousness, and that this year is fit to be named Frugality Year. Indeed, this wonder of frugality was proved 2 years later, during the Second World War, by the widespread hunger, destruction, and waste, and mankind and everyone being compelled to be frugal. Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save that which you have taught us. Indeed, you are all-knowing, all-wise. All right, so this was a little longer than than usual. So let's just go back to the top, and I would like to listen what brothers are gonna say. And I want to start maybe with Baikravi, so if he's available. Maybe
Uh,
not.
well, well, I
Okay.
have been talking for a couple of weeks, so maybe
Uh-huh.
Mustafa will step in.
Sure, of course. Let's
Uh,
begin with
okay.
yeah. So
Sure. Assalamu
please,
alaikum.
yeah. Walaikum assalam.
So yeah, I mean the connection here, I think, right, which is very important, is the
Mhm,
excess and wastefulness leading to greed, right? And this whole
mhm.
section, this whole point, what I see is more
Yes.
about, of course, greed and how it actually its results,
Mhm.
consequences. So
Sure.
I think one point I would like to maybe make is that like how we should understand maybe this connection between wastefulness and greed, and some of these
Mhm,
points actually give us some tips
mhm.
on like how they are connected. But
Right.
I have maybe two thoughts on this. One is we can understand maybe like wastefulness in the sense that like lack of contentedness, right? So
Yes.
in other words, when you are not content, when you are not content with what you have, when you're not content with what you do,
Right.
etc., then you would like to, you are in the search for more. And
Right.
if when you are constantly in search for more, then you tend to be more greedy, right? Because
Right.
you are
Right.
never content. You're never
Right.
content with what you have. You
Right.
always look for more. And
Yes.
then at that point, it is easier for Shaitan to trick you into going into illicit ways,
Right.
going into ways that you can abase yourself and, try to also, you know, show off to people, or try to even like stoop to people who are in the positions of power, etc.
Right.
Because like for example, you can um, when you don't feel content with what you have, you always need to show yourself off to your boss or someone, and then you
Yes.
always need to like talk to them, and maybe be in a position of somewhat of a abasement to tell them, almost like in a beggar like position. So in other words, when you are not content, you are wasteful, and when you are wasteful, it leads to greed. First, we don't have a lot of time, but there's a section letters in the 22nd letter. Second topic is about greed also, and there, for example, there is this example like someone is content and goes into a gathering, and then the
Right.
he because he is content, he actually wants to just sit on the side. He doesn't really want to go on the near to the host or anything, because he's content. He's just
Right.
saved from the cold of the winter, and he's inside somewhere.
Mhm.
But the host likes that contentedness, and then invites him over to a higher chair.
I see.
But on the other hand, if someone who is greedy and who
Yeah.
who is not content with what they have can
Right.
try to claim that high chair as soon
Mhm.
as he enters, but then the host would not like that behavior and would actually tell him to go to a lower chair, because he's just he has that entitledness on him. So
Right.
because of so that feeling of contentedness actually works, or the
Mhm.
greed actually works against you, and in some of these
Mhm.
points it is
Mhm.
given. The second way I understand this is that it is not only waste of water, waste of food, etc. When we think about wastefulness, we can think about there are other ways of being wasteful, such as being wasteful with our time, being
Right.
wasteful of our curiosity, being
Right.
wasteful of our interests, right? And when we are
Mhm.
wasteful with all these, we don't really have as much time left
Mhm.
for real and important work. And when we
Mhm.
don't have enough time for real and important work,
Mhm.
we can we need to do more with that little time we have, and it can lead
Mhm.
us to be
Mhm.
also somewhat greedy. And one
Mhm.
I think point about this is, I think in the Quran,
Mhm.
Pharaoh is mentioned as min al musrifin. He was one of the wasteful ones, right? I mean,
Mhm.
of course, he could be also wasteful in the in the sense of food, etc. But
Right.
what we see from the story of Moses and Pharaoh is that he had actually wasted lots of opportunities, right? He has
Right.
wasted lots of these opportunities that are given to him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala
Mhm.
through different miracles that he has seen,
Mhm.
through different messages um,
Mhm.
Musa and Harun alayhim salam gave him. So he has wasted all these opportunities, all these chances, and then
Mhm.
he's also one of the musrifin, one of the wasteful ones. So from that perspective, I think that point I wanted to make, so that the
Mhm.
greed, how like wastefulness in I mean,
putting
earthly
together.
resources, but
Yeah.
also other
Yeah.
resources can
Yeah.
lead to this greed. But I'll also let Baykar to share
Yeah,
his
yeah,
thoughts
no,
on some.
thank you. Yeah, it was very insightful. Yeah, I liked it. Yeah, just basic. What I understand is just give yourself some time, right? So like it's when you appreciate what you have. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, great point. Yeah, brother Boyka, please.
Uh, well, was a long reading, and
Mhm.
I believe this is related to the whole collection. You know, it's not easy
Of
to
course. Yeah,
wrap up my ideas.
right.
I will try my best. Feel free to intervene and cut me in the middle.
Sure, I
Uh,
will. I promise.
okay. Now, I yeah, I think we take this very lightly. You know, this is
Mm,
oh, don't be greedy.
mm,
Leave aside wastefulness. But
mm,
these are just symptoms. These are just the outcomes we see. For example, in
mm,
the beginning, you start took our attention to the situation that we are suffering, right?
mm,
Until uh, you know we are all most of us like paid, right?
mhm,
So it's kind of a half slavery, a half paid slavery, but to us it's normal. Yeah, we just work for a wage, fine, that's
mhm,
okay. But at the end, for example, they want us sometimes to
mhm,
act in certain ways, to sacrifice certain things, to maybe even change our lifestyle, you
mhm,
know uh, to be, they adjust us, with this thing. And
mhm,
we don't we normalize it, we just internalize it, it's kind of now our lifestyle, and we don't even feel it, how it really spoils us, or how it really, grievously affects our lifestyle.
mhm,
That's one side of it. uh, but uh, it is actually much deeper. It starts from the very roots, and we are bombarded with this ideologies and with
mhm.
this lifestyle, with
Right.
secular education, modern
Mhm,
lifestyle, and everything. So after a while, it's kind of normalized. It's kind of just
mhm,
the routine of our lives, as
mhm,
uh, Mustafa said. Even though we have much more than in the past, the
mhm.
more we have, the more we complain, the more we feel lack of things, the
Yeah.
more we are dissatisfied,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's very interesting.
Yeah. Mhm,
It has an inverse relation. And
mhm,
why is this, why it goes like that? We
mhm,
don't uh, we don't even feel that, we
mhm,
just
mhm,
say, oh, okay, yeah, I shouldn't be wasting, and I shouldn't be greedy, that's it, but
mhm.
I guess the roots are very deep. The
Right.
problem
Right.
starts in the
Mhm,
very roots of the
mhm,
issue, how we are educated, how we are grown up in the society, how we are nourished with the society. And
mhm. Yeah.
even in a I would say religious family,
Mhm,
with you grow up with religious, Quranic principles and akhlaq and moral.
mhm.
These things are there. They just say, oh, the bread is in the mouth of the lion. You should be, struggling for that. You should be fighting for that. You should be at the
Working
top
harder.
of the game. You
Yeah.
should be, beating your rivals.
Yeah.
So it is always there.
Mhm,
You starts here
mhm,
to by like correcting our point of view, because
mhm,
first of all, we need to read the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala correct. We need to
mhm,
read the life correct. So first
mhm,
of all, he took our attention to the harmony and the cooperation and mutual life in the environment. It's not all about struggling, or beating each other, being at the top of each other. Who are we really overcoming to get our risk? Are we why the sun and moon and the oceans and all the animals are submitting to us? Is it that because we are so powerful? Is it that we are so capable? No, because of our weakness, our neediness, as we went through the chapter. Again, this is kind of bringing all these things into our attention from another point of view. Maybe Ustad just starts talking about this in the very beginning, in Bismillah, and then in the fifth word, for example, we enroll in the army, right? And when you enroll in the army, you just worry about your duty, your training, and your jihad, which is in the human case, struggling with the shaitan and abstaining from the desires of the nafs. It's not a struggle against fellow human beings, a struggle against other fellow creatures, the other living creatures. It's not a struggle against quote unquote nature, or this and that. So Allah is sending the risk, Allah is sustaining us. So we need to again establish it from the very beginning. I wanna quote from the 28th flash, actually. This is the second point of the 28th flash. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it very clear for us. It starts with the ayah. Let me read it, inshallah, very quick. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ مَا أُرِيدُ مِنْهُمْ مِنْ رِزْقٍ وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَنْ يُطْعِمُونَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الرَّزَّاقُ ذُو الْقُوَّةِ الْمَتِينُ. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the merciful, the compassionate. I created not jinn and mankind except that they might worship me. Very deep ayah, but this is, to me, clear, understandable. Yes, Allah created us to worship Him, to know Him. But the following ayah, very interesting. No sustenance, no food, no risk do I require of them, nor do I require that they should feed me. This is the translation, but Ustad translates it. Let me read the Ustad's translation here. I'm not asking any food from you. I'm not, asking any risk from you. I don't want any risk from you. So, for a long time, these verses worried my mind, since according to many Quranic commentaries, their apparent meaning did not reflect the Quran's elevated miraculousness. I shall now explain briefly three aspects. I will read just one aspect of it. So it's obvious that we cannot, who are we? How can I give risk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It's very clear, right? So why does even Quran mentions this? Second aspect, man is excessively preoccupied with his sustenance. Human being is excessively busy with his risk. So, in order that he should not be deluded into making the obtaining of it a pretext for neglecting worship, I can't do this because I'm busy with my bread money. I need to do this because I bought such house and such car, and I have to pay my debts, etc., etc. Making this an excuse for the service of Quran and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in order that he should not be deluded into making the obtaining of a pretext for neglecting worship, nor make it an excuse, the verse says, you were created for worship. The result of your creation is worship. Winning sustenance is worship of a sort, from the point of view of its being a divine command. So it is Allah who is sustaining me, but going out to seek, bread money is also a worship. It's not really I am getting that bread. Really, I am overcoming something. I'm struggling with the others and, get that with my power. I have taken to provide your sustenance and that of your families, I have undertaken, I guarantee it. This is by the Quranic words. To provide your sustenance and that of your families and animals, my creatures, it pertains to me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You were not created to procure food and sustenance.
Mhm.
You are not making your food. You are not creating your food. You are not giving yourself and your family and your, those under your supervision, their risk. I am
Mhm.
giving them. For I am the provider. I am the Razzaq.
Right.
I provide the sustenance of my servants, your dependents. So do not make it an excuse and give up worship.
Yeah.
If its meaning is not this, it becomes a statement of the obvious. For to provide Almighty Allah with food and sustenance is self-evidently impossible and obvious.
Mhm.
But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rejects it in that, that strongly. I did not create me to give me food. He
Mhm.
said, so, oh Allah, who am I? How can I give you food? So he means
Mhm.
that I am sustaining you. I am the Razzaq,
Right.
not yourself.
Mhm. Mhm.
So since I guess, when we're asked this question, it's a simple question and we can easily answer it. Oh, yes, Allah is the Razzaq. But we live such a life,
Mhm.
we have such daily schedule that
Mhm.
it's sadly it kind of implies that, oh Allah, yes, you are the Razzaq, but who knows, maybe you are not gonna be able to feed me. Let
Mhm.
me finish this, and then I will do worship, or I'll be a good servant, you know but now it's maybe little haram and halal, and it's maybe little dubious, or it is maybe I'm making a lot of
Mhm.
mistakes in my worship and service of you, or I'm ignoring a lot of duties of mine, or I'm
Mhm.
just stepping over people. But I need to just take care of this stuff, because maybe
Right.
you will not be able to feed it. I'm not saying this, but it's
Mhm.
kind of the implied meaning in it, how I live my life.
Yes. Yeah.
Because
I
again, in
agree.
the very beginning, I
Mhm.
lost my belief that
Mhm.
Allah is the Razzaq.
Right. Right.
So that's why Istat takes here
Mhm.
in this point, step by
Mhm.
step, you know,
Yeah.
give an example of the trees and the,
Mhm.
animals. As a human being, think about
Mhm.
myself. When I
Mhm.
was, you know,
Mhm.
newborn, I didn't have capability to turn from left to right. I was just
Right.
able to move my mouth. I was fed in the best way,
Mhm.
right? I was taken care of in the best way.
Right.
And
Right.
then I got little strong. They tell me, oh, go get your cup of water from the kitchen. And I got
Right.
little stronger. Oh,
Mhm.
go get a bread from the deli. And
Mhm.
then I got little stronger. Now I start selling something at the bazaar. And then
Mhm.
next step now, I'm a graduate of such and such university, and I have this career and this
Mhm.
job, and
Yeah.
I'm sustaining myself. I'm
Right. Right.
self-sustained, and
Yeah.
I'm sustaining my family,
Mhm.
etc. So
Mhm. Mhm.
I,
Yeah.
I'm done with Allah.
Right. Right.
Astaghfirullah.
Right. So yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
kind of
We hear you.
sustaining
Yeah.
myself. I'm
Yeah.
self-dependent.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Great
we
point.
don't maybe say
Mhm.
this, but it's
Mhm.
really deep
Mhm.
there.
Exactly. Yeah. We gotta be careful. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
That's
not really
yeah.
Yeah.
seeing this
Yeah.
action as a
Mhm.
soul worship, but
Mhm.
I start seeing it as a life struggle,
Mhm.
as if I am really obtaining my risk,
Mhm.
as if it is really under my capability. No,
Yeah.
it's not.
Mhm.
Every single detail, millions of detail is working
Mhm.
perfectly, so I'm sustained.
Yeah.
You know,
I would like.
the guy
Yeah. Mhm.
the guy has the money in his pocket, right? The guy has the wealth, the guy has every single means, but I don't know, he got diabetes, he can eat sugar, he got I don't know, high blood sugar,
Mm.
pressure. He can't eat salt, whatever. He can't even enjoy the given risk.
Exactly,
How I
exactly.
can claim that
Yeah.
this is by me?
And
So
maybe
And
this,
I
yeah.
guess
Mhm.
one
Yeah,
thing that
Mhm.
is like I like one important point around all this is also like the
Mhm.
connection, especially like in the first part
Mhm.
of the seventh point, right? The first consequence,
Mhm.
and there's an interesting that point which might actually seem counterintuitive at first, right? Because like with all
Mhm.
these points that before sharing all these, one thing that might come to mind is that, oh, okay, like should we just be lazy, right? Like if we just
Mhm.
stop and not work, the food will still come. So should we just
Mhm.
not do anything and endeavor?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but actually, in the first consequence, he actually just
Mhm.
finishes that off. I mean, he cuts that off in the beginning because it actually is the other way around. Because if you
Mhm.
are greedy, then
Mhm.
you are dissatisfied, and when you are
Mhm.
dissatisfied, you lose the endeavor and
Yeah,
enthusiasm for the work
yeah,
because
exactly,
you are
exactly.
never it's never enough, and when
Mhm.
it's never enough, you
Mhm.
are always your mind is always in the next promotion, your mind is
Mhm.
always
Yeah.
about what is next, and you
Mhm.
lose the focus on your current work, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly,
even in that
exactly.
footnotes, like there's an interesting thing, I mean, we might have skipped that footnote, maybe, I don't know, but right, that
Mhm.
says consumers increase and producers decrease as a result of wastefulness and lack of economy. Everyone fixes his eye on the government store, then industry, trade, and agriculture, on which social life depends, decrease, and the nation declines and is impoverished. And
Mhm.
it's actually a very strong thing about how certain things work, right? I mean, people in the
Mhm.
they look at like government incentives and stuff when things are not actually very good. People are looking at that, but otherwise, a sign of a strong economy. And I will not talk about economy by an economist, but
No.
in front of an economist
Yeah.
like you. But it is like when you highly,
Mhm.
but what we see, at least in
Mhm.
our lifetime, is that whenever the economy struggled, then
Mhm.
government had to intervene and stuff. But when the sign of a strong economy is usually like people are actually endeavoring, people are actually engaged, and they focus on their work and do that instead of trying to get
Mhm.
money, find money, easy money type of
Mhm.
a thing. So
Mhm.
and he actually connected this greed directly to this because again, it might be counterintuitive at first, like, okay, the more greedy you are, the harder you will work to get it. No, actually, what he says is that you are dissatisfied, and that is a key point, because when you're dissatisfied, you your focus is not on at your work, your focus is on easy money, your focus is on
your benefit.
the
Mhm.
the infant immediate benefit and immediate pleasure, and
Right.
whatever you can get easily, whatever next is going
Yeah.
to satisfy you, because you're not
Mhm.
satisfied now, and
Mhm.
then you are also always seeking of
Mhm.
the bigger, easier thing, and you are never focused on just getting
Mhm.
your work done. So that is also, I guess, I want to make
Mhm.
that connection, because again,
Mhm.
it might
Yeah.
seem counterintuitive with like
Mhm.
greed and dissatisfaction, but
Mhm.
this sounds very interesting to me at the first
Yeah,
point here.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Maybe we can, if we, yeah, I think we have time. Maybe we can listen other brothers, brother Ali. So I mean, oh, the someone also is asking for SUM. Maybe just if brother Jazmi can just tell him to.
Um, this is
I'm not sure
bro-
what SUM is, but
okay. Also, there is Mustafa Altunkaya.
yeah. In the meantime, maybe we can listen. Yeah, bro, Mustafa Altunkaya or Ali Çetinkaya. So
I guess Ali
Thank you
abi.
for letting me speak.
please.
Oh, okay, thank you. I was going to add one point. I made my master in economics, but in here it says iktisad. Iktisad is not economy. I understand my brother Mustafa, he
Mhm.
didn't mean that, but there is a misunderstanding. Economy is not the same as iktisad. İktisat means bir şeyi kastıyla kullanmak. What I am trying to say is, let's just say using something the way it is aimed to be used. For example, we cannot I mean, pen is aimed to be used to write things. We cannot knock something with pen, or we cannot use pens for other purposes. So iktisad is that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Brother Ali, or Brother Mustafa, if anyone, I guess, or okay, I guess. So,
Also, thank you, Mustafa, bring it to our attention. We most of the time mix hard work with being greedy. But eventually, again, the clear outcome is greed might turn into laziness because I'm dissatisfied all the time, and again, the root cause is I don't believe that this is decreed to me, this is given to me. I really believe that, I should have got more because of my, I don't know, ambition.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, exactly. So just it's what I'm kind of getting like from what Musa, like I guess it's a great like kind of points that he made earlier. So just especially the consequences. I just wanted to summarize, but I wanted to give a little maybe just some commentary like from other brothers. But three is just the consequences. If we would like to see them like it's right next to each other. So the first one is dissatisfaction, and then of course we have like disappointment. And then, so it's just like how Ustad Buddhism like explains the third consequence is just like destroying the sincerity and everything. So just you don't have, I think like how it just leads to a third consequence is like one by one, right? So like you're acting like a racehorse. So you don't have enough time. You don't even like just take time off to appreciate what you have. And you always have just like the second, like the other reward, like right next to, right next to. So it's almost like, so it's just, even though like maybe you have like just maybe good intentions at the beginning, but then like you become like so kind of full of greed, and it destroys your sincerity finally. So it destroys and damages everything that is all the activities looking or just preparing to you to hereafter. So you don't have you're not like just taking some time off to appreciate. So that is a great like kind of just to see it overall. And of course, let me just, but I think like there is a question, I believe so, if I'm
On the
mistaken.
chat, yeah.
Yeah, on the chat board, right? So, not sure. Oh, Ali Rahmandi. So is it okay for us to pursue a higher career, thus pursuing for wealth, fame, power, while keeping the principle of frugality? How to reconcile between ambition and thus frugality and contentment? So, by Kraven. So the question is for you.
Does it say that?
Yeah, I added it.
I guess this for all of us.
Yeah, this is a difficult question. I don't want to answer it.
Yeah, we can both take a shot at it, maybe. Like,
Please,
what
Mustafa. So yeah, go ahead.
I mean, one is like in one of the earlier points, there was the the mentioning of the certain qualities are similar, but they're not the same, right? It might be in the 6th point, but right. I mean, sometimes frugality could be similar to stinginess, but depending on the occasion, depending on how you use it, when you use it, it is a different. Like they are similar, but they're not the same. Similarly, ambition and greed are similar looking attributes, but at the same time, they're very different, right? Because, for example, when explaining tawakkul, right, which is there is a difference between tawakkul and tawakkul, right? There are two similar words. Tawakkul is what we understand is you do your part, and at the end you leave the results to the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But tawakkul is giving up your part even at the beginning, right? And which is not correct, which is not right, and then hoping that it will all work out, and it usually does not, because you haven't done your part, you haven't done your active prayer, active dua, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us to do our part. Right, there is that famous hadith about someone comes in and he says, they left their camel, they didn't tie their camel, right? And Prophet ﷺ, he says, and he said, I made tawakkul. There's no, like, tie your camel to to a pole or something, to a post, then make your tawakkul, right? So we do have to do our part,
Right.
and then leave the rest. So similarly, greed and ambition might look similar, but I think it is more about this contentedness, right? If you are, as long as you're content with what you have, then you can always look for new areas. It's like that is to, and you do it for the right reasons. You do it because you would like to, use that wealth in good, right? Because they were very wealthy Sahabe, right? I mean, like Uthman bin Affan, etc. So they have been rich, but they have used their richness and wealth in good cause. So if the intentions are right, we can actually pursue higher career aspirations, etc. As long as, but there are criteria, right? Like you do not abandon anything about your religious life in favor of that worldly possession, or you do not debase yourself or or your religion for the sake of it. As long as you're content, and if it is not given, you don't really feel bad. But if you get it, you also have thankfulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about that. So it is a thin line, but it is, I think it's still possible within the bounds of religion, and it is, as I said, expected, because Sahabi radiallahu anh, they didn't just leave worldly life at all. They pursued it, but for the right purposes and for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And maybe Baykarabi can add more, inshallah.
Yeah, thank you, Mustafa. Yeah, just great explanation. Yeah, Baykarabi, now it's your turn.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mustafa. That was the perfect example that came to my mind. Thank you for mentioning the Sahaba. Unfortunately, they are the best examples, core models in our lives, but I would say we are so far away from some meanings that was a part of their lives, a fact in their, their daily routine, that we have really difficulty to approach that ideal, meanings. Again, we should go maybe back to the very roots, where the deep cause of the problem. Let me share a short part from the 23rd word. In order to secure a desire or wish he cannot obtain, a child will either cry or ask for it. That is, he will supplicate through the tongue of his impotence, either actively or verbally, and will be successful in securing it. In the same way, man, the human being, is like a delicate, petted child in the world of living creatures. The man is like a delicate, petted child in the world of living creatures. He has to either weep at the court of the most merciful and compassionate one through his weakness and impotence, or supplicate through his poverty and need. He has to either weep at the court of the most merciful and compassionate one through his weakness and impotence, or supplicate through his poverty and need, so that the things he wants may be made subject to him, or he may offer thanks for their being made so. Otherwise, like a silly child who creates a fuss over a fly, saying, with my own strength I subjugate things it is not possible to subjugate, and things 1,000 times more powerful, and I make them obey me through my own ideas and measures, he displays ingratitude for bounties. And just as this, contrary to man's innate nature, so he makes himself deserving of severe punishment. So it's not what we are doing, as far as it's halal, of course, in the halal borders that Allah, decreed for us, what we are doing, but how we are doing it. What's the spirit behind it? And This is the core value. You know, whatever I did, I achieved. It was a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm just doing my worship. I'm just doing either a dua with verbally or my actions. So we just memorize this, but we need to really internalize this. That's why we, you know, constantly study the Quranic truth from the Risale-i Nur. This is not easy. Again, this is injected into our veins, you know, from the very first moment, you know, from the elementary school, even earlier, we just believe that we are achieving things. We are just, you know, the one. We are the guy. We are the doer. No, I am the trust holder. Then in the question, brothers, for example, counted wealth.
Yeah.
I'm the trust holder. This is Allah's wealth for me to distribute to the needy. Period. The fame, power. You know what fame? For what? Credit for what?
Yeah.
The gifts that Allah gifted me, the abilities or the smartness. How did I get smarter? You know, you know, this is all. I'm doing a stronger dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also by my action, which is very good. But to get the credit, to write it into my Amal book, I need to just, you know it from Allah. I need to accept that this was a gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not my own ability. You know, many people who is in the same condition with me couldn't achieve it maybe. Or I don't know, there was other problems and issues, you know, we don't need to go into details, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us into our lifespan with many examples of these. We need to understand, you know, this is decreed, this is by Allah, and I'm just doing my dua. I'm just doing my part. I'm just using what is given to me. The trust is Allah's, and inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. You know, when the time comes, I'm just gonna return the possession to its own real owner, right? So yes, we can go for that. We can have wealth, we can have power, we can go with the career, but you know, we have to use it. It is more responsibility. It is not more credit into my, you know, account. No, it is more responsibility, and I need to make more dua. I need to make more, you know, I need to have more appreciation. And as far as it is, again, you know, halal, nothing wrong with it. And Mustafa, thank you. Give the example of the Sahabe. Some of them, you know, was very superior in the worldly issues. But we also know that in the 19th letter, right, Ustad mentions it, 600, Mustafa also, I guess, he mentioned it, 600 camels with his loads. If you compare to this today, right, it's like kind of 600 truck loads of goods, right? With the trucks themselves. He gifted at once. So, you know, very interesting. And he is not getting the credit to himself. He says, Alhamdulillah, Allah used me for this good cause, you know?
Alhamdulillah. Yeah. Thank you, brothers. Yeah, just these are great examples, and I see that in the chat box that brother is also appreciated with the answers. Thanks a lot. So I don't have anything to add on top of it. So seriously, may Allah just help us to practice in everything that we read and be in this, of course. I mean, just a nice kind of trust, a kind of just, you know, place that always having this awareness that I should add. That always on our mind, and to not to destroy like in a sincerity and everything, all these actions inshallah may be reflected towards hereafter. Thank you so much. Great commentary, and of course, I mean, just your participation is always like kind of great. I appreciate it seriously, and thank you so much. And inshallah next week, so we finished frugality this week, and I believe Brother Jasmine is gonna let us know what chapter we're gonna read next week, inshallah. Thanks a lot again for attending and just giving your time, your precious time, and being with us, and all your commentaries and everything. And inshallah, we will end this with another, maybe just the same dua, maybe just again, go back to the end of second point, was it? So that dua was where was it again? So I think like it was somewhere here, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
There was another.
No, end of yeah, right here. So inshallah, so like as many by the meaning. So inshallah, well, we ask Allah Almighty, inshallah, when our spirit rules our body, and our heart rules the desires of our soul, and the reason rules our stomachs. So we want a pleasure to sake offering thanks, and inshallah, then we will have beautiful things in our life. So may Allah help us to practice what we inshallah read today. Thanks a lot again joining. I'll see you guys inshallah next week.
inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum.